Hello, thank you for spending some time with us watching this video. This is the GoAdventure trip orientation video. Briefly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jim Neville. I'm the director of GoAdventure. I'm also the co-founder. We specialize in offering outdoor-based adventure trips to schools and youth groups from around the whole country to basically anywhere those schools or youth groups want to go. This is our 17th season, and over 3,000 students have attended the program since we began. Also with us here to walk us through this video is Tova Soroka. She is our logistics director here at GoAdventure. And so Tova, briefly, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Tova Soroka. As Jim mentioned, I am our logistics director at Lifeschool, and I'm attending Lifeschool with my third season now. And in the past, I've also been a trip leader on programs and will be in our upcoming 17th season as well. Everyone here at Lifeschool is really excited about our upcoming season. We have some amazing trips planned with some amazing staff to go along on them.
Great, and you'll hear us say both Lifeschool and GoAdventure. There's sometimes some confusion on that. Just to explain, GoAdventure is the primary program that Lifeschool, the organization, offers. Lifeschool was founded in Berkeley in 1999 as a nonprofit organization to get kids out into nature and to teach them life skills. GoAdventure is our primary program, so you'll be attending the GoAdventure program. Briefly on this video, we're going to cover some topics that are really relevant to your upcoming adventure. We're going to answer questions like who are the staff, what activities will I be doing, what gear do I need to pack, and what can I rent from GoAdventure, what is GoAdventure's approach to risk management, what paperwork do I need to complete and how do I submit it. And of course, you're going to have questions about your specific group's itinerary, where you're going, the transportation details around that specific trip. Those are all going to be covered in your orientation meeting, which we either host on conference call or occasionally in person as well. So there are topics that are generally relevant, specifically relevant to all GoAdventure trips, no matter where they go and which school we're working with. So we're going to be talking about those sort of overarching topics today. I'd like to just start with a quick program overview so you get a sense of what is GoAdventure, what kind of trips do these guys do. The focus of every trip we do is entirely customized. There are a few things that all trips have in common. I'll talk about those. But basically, teachers and trip coordinators are part of the planning process from the very beginning. We basically take feedback from teachers and trip planners to say, what is your ideal best trip ever? And then we try to do our best to, in essence, design, build, and then facilitate that trip. But there are basic things that all trips that we offer will include. And that's an acronym we have, which is A.I.R, A-I-R. And so on any trip, you're going to have an active, an instructive, and a reflective component. The active component is kids are going to be moving, backpacking or surfing or rock climbing in Yosemite or sea kayaking in Hawaii or wherever we happen to be going. There's going to be an instructive component where the staff are going to, play more of a teacher-type role, where they'll be teaching the students about, wilderness risk management concepts, about weather, about reading the terrain, potentially about backcountry cooking or backcountry first aid, and more of an instructional type situation. And then, of course, one of our favorite and I think one of the most important parts of any trip is the reflective component, where students will get to sit and have some quiet time, which is their journal, or we'll sit in a circle and we'll have group conversations. We'll debrief the learnings that are going on and the adventures we're experiencing, so that really we can really lock in some of those fond memories or challenging experiences that the students can use to build upon once they get back home. So no matter what trip you're coming on with us, active, instructive, and reflective is something that you're all going to get a chance to see. And then Tova has some other topics that she's going to talk about. We're going to go right into a little bit about our staff.
So this year, 2017, we have a great team of staff members coming in. On every single Lifeschool trip, we always have a veteran staff who has been with us for at least 1 year, if not longer. Our ratio on our trips are 1 to 6, which means for every 6 students we have 1 staff member there. And on some trips, this might seem like a lot. If your 8th grade class has 30 students in it, we make sure to have 4 to 5 trip leaders on that trip. These trip leaders all have different roles on a trip. Now, everyone talks with the students, does activities, leads instructive and reflective. But to break it up, we have a few different roles. We have a trip leader, which one of our staff members is kind of the major voice of the group. They'll be overseeing the logistics and making sure that the itinerary is running smoothly. Another trip leader will be our first aid leader. This is the person that will be in charge of all of the first aid needs on our trip. As I mentioned, a lot of these trips have 4 to 5 staff. Other trips that are not in one of these 2 main roles will be our co-guides. They'll be running games, making sure they'll take pictures and videos so that at the end of the trip, these students, as well as the parents and teachers, will have lots of pictures and videos to look back on. Every team member does a little bit of everything, but a lot of the time, as I mentioned, we break into these roles so it's very clear for the students and the teachers as well. In case an emergency situation occurred, everyone would already have their designated role. Of new staff coming in this year, and these new staff come in with a lot of experience. They come in with several years of experience working with youth. Some come in with a background of a BA or a BS in outdoor educational degree. So they come in charge of photos, or our first aid leader comes in with a wilderness first responder certification. This is a certification that staff will get pre-staff training and pre-coming to life school that is good for 2 to 3 years, depending on the company that is given by. This is a medical certification that teaches us how to treat and assess any medical emergencies that might happen in the backcountry. This also helps us make decisions when treating and assessing these situations and documenting, and if anything was in a major emergency situation, how to go about evacuating those students. As well, it covers just how to treat basic common colds and injuries in the backcountry, such as blisters or dehydration. So as you can tell, our staff make up a big part of our team, and they are what makes our trips very successful. And our trips are unique programs. They have a lot of fun outside. The staff make sure to spend time reflecting and getting to know each and every kid. Running into that programmatic side of things, Jim's going to talk a little bit about, our risk management and how we manage things throughout our trips.
Yeah, of course, risk management is one of our, it is the number one thing that we think about. In the off season, we're attending the Wilderness Risk Management Conference, which is actually hosted by 3 of the largest outdoor guide companies in the world, Outward Bound, the National Outdoor Leadership School, and the Student Conservation Association. Being outdoors, doing anything in life, as we know, you're not benign to risk, And the example that we give our students is that when you're driving on a road, when you're loading your student up to put them in a car, to take them to school, that is potentially the riskiest part of your day, of course, because you can't control what other drivers are doing on the road. You can't control the weather. But there are some things that you can control or can manage, which is why we use the word risk management, because there are clearly risks in driving your car, but there's things you could do to manage that inherent risk. Things like signaling and driving the speed limit and using your mirrors and keeping the noise to the minimum, and just situational awareness, like knowing what's going on around you. It's very similar. When we go on these camping trips with kids, we're aware of the risks that go on in that type of environment, and we do our best to mitigate them by, having things like risk management policies and healthy living and camping type procedures that we orient all the kids to as soon as the trip begins. Honestly, our risk management policies are really dependent on the students sort of having buy-in and wanting to participate and have a great time without, making the types of choices that could help, exaggerate the inherent risk that there would be in any given trip. So that said, we do hire subcontractors from time to time. We're traveling to the San Juan Islands up in, northern Washington, and we will hire a local, trained, accredited subcontractor to facilitate the sea kayaking when they take us out to look at the whales, for example. We have a vetting process, so if you wanted to basically be a provider for us in terms of like a river rafting on a certain river in an area, or a rock climbing in Yosemite, for example, those are gear-intensive, local knowledge required activities. So we vet that subcontractor to make sure that their risk management policies are, current to industry standards, and then we'll utilize their services. We also carry what's called a spot device, which is a homing beacon. It's an EPIRB of sorts, if you're familiar with boating, where it's in essence it's a 911 distress signal that can be sent out to any location we are in the world in order to get some search and rescue type level of help if that's ever required. In 17 years, we've never had to activate that spot device, but that doesn't mean that we're not trained and ready to if we ever did have to. There's, we scout where the hospitals are, local to where we are, whether that's in Oregon and Utah or Costa Rica. We do have a risk plan that's in place for any destination we go to. We carry cell phones. And we also have great advice, both from our medical director, who is an ER physician at San Francisco General Hospital. She's a backcountry skier and a mountain biker. She spent time trekking in Nepal. Our medical director is extremely savvy in terms of outdoor adventure type medicine, and so she has co-created and approved our medical protocol. So we feel, we're always learning, we're always trying to improve and gather more information, but we feel very current in terms of industry standards with regard to, outdoor risk management. What I'd like to do now is just introduce Tova for the next topic, which I think, Tova, you're going to be talking a little bit more specifically about that packing list, about all the gear that you're going to bring, and what do you have to provide versus what can we lend you, and if we lend it, what's that process like, and so that's what we'll be discussing next. So go ahead, Tova.
Great. So when you come on a life school trip, you're probably asking yourself what kind of group gear you need, what kind of personal gear you need. Are you going on the river? Are you going backpacking? And all of this depends on your trip. You will be receiving a specific packing list for your trip, but there are two main categories. There's group gear and there's personal gear. The group gear is provided by Life School. This includes tents, snacks, food, bug spray, cooking gear, sunscreen. Really the overarching things. We're not going to ask you to bring your own cook set so you can cook dinner for the 30 other students. We will provide that. But the things that we are going to ask you to bring are your personal gear. Now, we understand that not everyone has everything, and Life School is able to rent out and let you borrow some mandatory gear for your trip. When you receive your packing list, you will see items that are rentable or indicated in red and italics on your packing list.
One thing to clarify also, just in terms of renting gear, and I know you're going to get to this in a minute, Tova, is that although we call it rental, it's actually included. We're an all-inclusive person, so just coming on any trip with us, you don't actually pay money for rent. You just have to request it specifically so we know to bring it for you. But you are responsible if that is damaged to replace the item, of course, at whatever cost it would be to replace it. But any of the gear that we do provide to lend you is included without any additional cost. So I just wanted to let you know that as we go through this list.
Thanks, Jen. But some of these mandatory items I'd like to go through with you. And these are the items that you are able to rent from us if you do not have. One is a warm fleece jacket. Fleece is really different from cotton. Cotton will generally, if you sweat, it won't dry out quickly, and it will just make you colder. So having a fleece jacket is really important. We use a set of rain gear, which is a rain jacket, possibly rain pants, or a poncho. These need to be good quality. If it's raining out, we want to make sure that your student is going to be dry when we're camping or going for a hike. And this will probably be something that will go over that fleece layer to keep you insulated. So not having like your plastic poncho is not going to work. You need a full zip rain jacket or a heavy duty pullover poncho. The next item that's required is a wool or fleece hat, not cotton, just something warm. A lot of your heat will leave through your extremities as well as your head. So being able to keep that heat in through a warm fleece hat is really important. Now, depending on your trip, you might only need a pair of comfortable hiking sneakers. But if you are going on any kind of backpacking trip or a trip with extensive hiking in it, we will require you to have a pair of hiking boots. We do have these available to borrow as well. But please take a look at your specific packing list. Not every trip will be required these.
And, one thing I've been reading about lately, too, is it's not required that those hiking boots are high tops. Really the most important part of a hiking boot is the rigidity of the sole. And so if you have low-top hiking shoes that are still a rigid, kind of a more burly sole that you can walk over rocky terrain with, but it's a low-top, that's actually fine. We're just looking for a super flexy sneaker. Is that what we're getting at?
Correct. Thanks, Jim. And when you're sleeping at night, you will need to have a non-cotton sleeping bag as well as a sleeping pad. A lot of times we've had in the past students show up with these very large sleeping bags that roll up and pretty much take up the entire space of their duffel. Or their backpacking pack if you are on a backpacking trip. We ask that you do not bring these. If that is the only one you have, please just ask and we will be able to bring along a small compactable sleeping bag for you. As far as the sleeping bag foam or air mattresses are fine. We, again, like to keep them small and compact. One thing that's really important, we go in the river, we go in the ocean, we require our students to wear shoes because there can be broken glass, there can be sharp rocks, and having a foot injury in the backcountry is no fun for anyone. So please bring river sandals with some sort of heel strap. No Crocs, no flip-flops. There can't be anything that are going to slide off your feet when there's water going over your feet. If you don't have a river sandal with a heel strap, it's easy enough to go out or look through your closet and bring an old pair of sneakers that you don't mind getting wet. Just something to cover the feet when we're swimming or maybe on a rafting trip or walking down a beach for an extended period of time. The next item is 2 water bottles. We'd ask that each of these water bottles is at least 1 liter. Often on many of our trips, we'll go out for long day hikes, and having 2 full liters of water is extremely important. Please make sure that these bottles are durable and not just a leftover plastic water bottle, because often they'll be put in backpacks, and after 2 days it will be broken. So please make sure you have 2 1-liter full-size durable water bottles. Toiletries. Everybody has their own set of toiletries, but we ask whatever you do bring, shampoo, conditioner, face wash, please keep it down into a small stuff sack the size of a hiking boot. And the last thing I'd like to go over on your packing list is prescription medications that might be brought along. Please make sure all of these are in their original bottles with the student's name on it and directions for dosages. This is extremely important so us as staff as well as teachers know whose medication is what and where it goes. No cell phones will be allowed during any of our Lifeschool trips, so please bring them at home. If they're brought on the trip, a Lifeschool leader will collect them and they'll be given back to people at the end of the trip. We really, as part of our motto, is we want to enjoy the people and places around us and not get caught up in technology. If your trip has a service project, maybe bring a pair of clothes that you might not mind getting dirty, long shirts, long pants to cover everything up if you're digging in the dirt or helping build a house, but something that you're not going to mind getting dirty, a durable pair of pants, jeans. I think that covers most items. If there's anything not on that packing list that you think you want to bring, don't. We've organized this packing list to make sure that you have what's necessary for you, and so that your duffel isn't going to be 3 suitcases wide and we don't have any room for anyone else. So please stick to that packing list. If you have questions or you want items that you're going to loan from us, please email us at info@goadventure.org.
All right, so paperwork is the last topic. One thing I forgot to mention during risk management is that we have a medical screening process. This is an industry standard thing basically that we have to do and we want to do in order to just get a sense of each of the students and adults who's attending any of our trips. We want to know what sort of medical conditions might be in place, what sort of dietary restrictions. Whatever it happens to be, we really need to know in sort of a full disclosure type of way in order to just be able to better serve that student, plan for that type of activities that might, basically accommodate all of the individual needs of students. And so if you'd please on your medical form, and everyone that applies for or registers for a GoAdventure trip does this online, you basically go to GoAdventure.org. And on GoAdventure.org on the very home screen is a link that says register for a trip. You click that, you'll be asked to just create a username and password, and then you select which trip that you're in. So click that and then fill out all of the information. That's all your heights and weights and sizes and questions like are you familiar with camping or is it your first time? Is there any dietary needs? Just fill that form out. You can basically start doing that right away. It's important that we get that information as proactively as possible so we have time to follow up with you if we do have questions on your medical form. There's also a form that's not actually an online form. That is a paper form that has to be hand-signed. And of course, this is from the legal side of any program where there's a release of indemnity and liability of risk waiver. And so you will get one from every different subcontractor that, like that river company or sea kayaking company or rock guide company. They're going to want to have that form hand signed. Of course, we here at Lifeschool and GoAdventure have a basic form that has to be signed. and then turn those into your group organizer. So when it's that teacher or that trip liaison. A couple of their final topics is tips for staff. We often get questions about, is it appropriate to tip a staff member and what that amount would be. It absolutely is actually industry standard. If in the service industry, if you're pleased with the work of the staff members, and of course if it met your expectations, they work hard. They're trained people. They're most of the time college educated. These aren't high school volunteers leading our trips. They're teacher caliber professionals, and so a tip is a very welcome gesture. We recommend between $50 to $100 per staff member if that's within your school budget. The subcontractors also, tips are not included in your rate, so if you had it would be a lesser tip, something more like maybe $25 per river guide, for example. That'd be really welcome for your subcontractors to get tipped as well. And a couple things is when you're finishing your online registration form, you're going to have a chance to purchase things in an online store. So we have a photo download. Basically, our staff carry GoPro cameras and high-resolution digital cameras, and their job is to, impart photo essay is what we call it here in-house, the trip. So it's some sweatshirts and T-shirts. That's all part of the online registration process. That's it, really. Otherwise, the questions that you might have we're going to be covering in the orientation call, or you can also email us at info@goadventure.org, as you know. So with that, I want to leave you. You guys all have a great day, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.